Hello, and welcome back to the glorious return of the Reformed Perspective. I am Neil Carter. I am the pastor at Oney Baptist Church in Albert, Oklahoma. Formerly, I was the associate pastor at Dawson Baptist Church just outside Owensboro, Kentucky. So it's been a while. My page got taken down for one reason or another, and then I got simply really just got disenamored with the whole thing, and so it's been a while, but I'm glad to be back. Today we are going to talk about God's prediction. It really honestly is very strange to me for people to think that God predicts anything. It's a very bad theology. It makes for good talk, just makes for terrible theology. Here at Oney Baptist Church, I preach from the Ryrie Study Bible, which is a New American Standard Version. But I have trouble with the Ryrie Study Bible simply because a lot of the things that it says in its notes are completely wrong. Take, for example, one of my favorite verses, Isaiah 46:10. I'll read from 9 through 10. It says, "Remember the former things long past, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is no one like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things which have not been done, saying, my purpose will stand, and I will accomplish all my good pleasure." Down at the bottom of the page, the Ryrie Study Bible has a note over verses 8 through 11, and it says, "Only the true God can predict the future and bring it to pass." So here's our question for the day. Logically thinking, does God predict the future? Well, no. Anybody will tell you. No, God doesn't predict the future. God knows the future. So if God knows the future, there's really only a couple of ways that He can know the future. One, He looks forward into time and sees what you will do on a certain day, and He reacts to what you do. So that wouldn't be God predicting, but that would be God being reactant to His creation. That doesn't sound like a very smart God. That doesn't sound like a very powerful God if He's reactant to me. Because we're such unpredictable creatures that He would always be moving His will and His plans to whatever mankind did if He simply just looked forward into the future and saw what we do and then reacts to that and molds His plan around our actions. But here in Isaiah 46:10, it says that's impossible. It says, "I will accomplish all of my good pleasure." God has a plan. Whether you like to hear it or not, God has a plan, and He's going to accomplish that plan. He's going to. So, the first way that we could say that God doesn't predict anything is because God knows what's going to happen. The first way, which we've already established is really erroneous, is that God looks into the future and sees what we do in the future and then changes His will to that. The other way, which is also the scriptural way that God knows the future, is because God has ordained the future. Does God ordain sin? No, God doesn't ordain sin, but God does allow sin to happen so that we can, or so that He can bring about righteous ends and bring about repentance and bring about His will. And it shows that God honestly has the power not only over righteous things, but also over unrighteous things. That God doesn't ordain it, and God never actually touches the sin itself, but God Himself uses it as a tool to bring about righteous ends and to bring about His will and His purpose. Now this is going to make some of you mad. This is going to cause some of you to say, well, you're just pigeonhole me into a corner. It's been done before. It'll continue to be done. But think about that. Think about whether or not God predicts anything. God doesn't predict anything. God knows that it's going to happen, and the only way that He can know that it's going to happen and retain His sovereignty is if He ordained it, which is what Isaiah 46:10 says. That God declares the end from the beginning. If I decide the end from the beginning, guess what? I've decided everything in between as well. Because the end won't come if the middle way messes up. It also says that God declares from ancient times things which have not been done. So even things that haven't been done yet were already declared from ancient times. And ancient times there should be understood as before the foundations of the world. Before God created the world, God laid out a plan. God didn't come into the creation of the universe with an idea of going to shoot from the hip or just wing it and make it up as He goes along. God has a plan. God uses our assumed free agency, our assumed free will, to get that plan so that we somehow make decisions every day. And we honestly do make free-willed decisions every day. But those free-willed decisions have already been planned and responded to before we ever make those decisions. Even though we make those free-will decisions, God declared the end from the beginning and from ancient times things which have not yet been done. Why? Because His purpose will be established and He will accomplish His goals. For the Reformed Perspective, I am Neil Carter. Have a good day.